So not too long ago, Reason released their vocoder, and they released small videos about how to work with it in every major DAW. And I want to talk about this within Ableton Live. Turns out you can access different parts of the Reason rack according to how you're handling your signal flow and which Reason rack plugin you're using. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to deal with the Reason rack sidechain input, in this case using the vocoder with a couple of examples. My name is Juanchis, and let's learn about signal flow using the Reason rack within Ableton Live. This is the example we will be working with. Let's see if you can spot. My video is color-coded, so it's easier for you to follow any of the examples I'm going to show. The track that has the vocoder inserted is always going to be the purple one, and the track that is not going out to the stereo bus or into the mix is color-coded green. So in this case, I have the MIDI instrument set in this lower track, and everything in this example has been done with Reason rack. So I have this synth going out and going into this purple track where I have an audio sample, right? So whenever you insert the Reason rack plugin effect, because that's an audio track, you can see any plugin that has a sidechain input show a window to the left where you can pick what's going into the sidechain input. Then you can pick which part of the signal flow you want to draw it from. And I suggest that it's always the post effects, since that won't mess with the on and off or the fader position of the instrument. And you can handle the inputs from the gain knob right underneath it. My suggestion is that the track you're sending into the sidechain of any other plugin, you just set it to sense only, so it doesn't go out into the master, and you can do with it whatever you want, because you don't want to listen to it within the mix. The configuration within the Reason rack goes like this. First of all, you have to change the synth carrier into external, and when you flip your rack, my suggestion is to use the main input into the modulator in, and the sidechain into the external carrier in. I feel like this makes the best result. Let me show you. Because if I turn it around, the sample is just way too obvious, and you need to fiddle around way too much for my taste. And you don't get this cool effect from the vocoder. Remember, you can always check what's going in through the modulator in and the carrier in mix. Set up your vocoder. There are more than enough tutorials about this, and you can check any of them out. And it all goes out through this. And it's as easy as that for the first example, where we're going from a MIDI instrument into an audio track. Example number 2. In this case, we're taking the audio track without any kind of effects, and we're sending it through the sidechain input into the MIDI instrument track. So this is a MIDI instrument track. Then again, you insert the Reason rack plugin, this one with the instrument, and you set the sidechain from the audio channel. You can also set the gain here. Remember to set the output of the audio track to sense only, so it's easier and it doesn't double up in the mix or anything of the sorts. And the routing here is really different. Here I have a MIDI instrument that's going to be triggered by this synth. I can show it to you. It's here in the carrier in, and in the modulator in, I have the audio track, right? Remember to have the external track on, and I'm gonna flip my rack, and you will see that any synth instrument that I have within the rack, I will cable it into the external carrier in. I feel that this gives the best result, and the main input, it goes into the modulator in. One big difference that you may have noticed already. I'm not using this sidechain. And this one is not available when you're doing this routing into Reason Rack as a synth instrument. The easiest way to check this kind of things is if I plug my main in straight into my main out, I'm listening to the audio track. This one that's going in through the sidechain input, but it's actually going through the audio main input. It's strange, but that's how it goes. But if I plug in the sidechain input into the main output, nothing sounds. My best guess is that because it's in a position where the instrument goes first, so the sidechain input simply doesn't work because it's not yet in a place where audio is going in. So the main input, since we have nothing but MIDI before the plugin, would be the sidechain input. So that's that. I made a diagram so it's easier to follow. Let me share. Okay, this diagram should be really easy to follow. Yes, I use Max as a chalkboard. On the left side, you have the MIDI channel going into the audio track set to Synth only. And on the right side, you have the audio track into the Reason Rack instrument as Synth only. Both of the scenarios use the left part of the device of the plugin to set the sidechain from. You could also set it up, as Reason Studio showed, the audio from, but that's what probably is limiting you from thinking that you can also get it as an instrument. So there are more ways to go into the plugin. You can go from the audio from, you can go from the sidechain when you're using it in an audio track, and in the case of a MIDI channel, you can only go in through the sidechain. This works for any kind of strange combinations that you want to do within the Reason Rack or any plugin that gives you more or less these routing options. What's really fun about this is that they actually give different results, so it's nice to have both options at hand. And that's what makes it really interesting. For example, in this case, I'm only doing the gauge trigger trick that everyone knows. And the only thing that I'm changing is, since one gives you a richer mid sound, or you can see what's interesting for you, you can layer those two configurations together within Ableton Live, group them up, and you get two very similar instruments that become this one big layer, where you can have one triggering with the drums or any other sound, and you have the other one just layering a huge path using the decay on the vocoder. And as I told you, everything here has been done with the Reason Rack. This is my setup for the drums. I'm using the Soul Pop pack and bassline generator as a gate trigger for my gates in the vocoders. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. My name is Juanchis, and